What keeps people emotionally attached to a narcissist for years? Today, you will understand how a narcissist projects their darker side onto you in order to keep you in a particular emotional state, a state where you remain hungry for their affection. This constant hunger is what keeps many people trapped in narcissistic relationships. The mechanism that often maintains this dynamic is called intermittent affection. Intermittent affection is a psychological phenomenon that operates quietly in the background of many narcissistic relationships. It is subtle, difficult to recognize at first, yet extremely powerful in shaping emotional attachment. Over time, it can keep someone bonded to the relationship for years. In narcissistic dynamics, intermittent affection becomes one of the strongest mechanisms that maintains the bond between the narcissist and their partner. Let us understand how this works. Intermittent affection is a pattern where emotional warmth is given unpredictably. Sometimes the person is attentive, kind, affectionate, validating. Other times they are cold, distant, critical, or withdrawn. There is no steady emotional baseline. The key that operates intermittent affection is unpredictability. Human beings regulate through consistency. When warmth becomes unpredictable, the nervous system cannot relax. In narcissistic relationships, this inconsistency often becomes part of the relational pattern, whether conscious or unconscious. The unpredictability keeps the other person emotionally off balance. At first, the person experiencing this pattern does not recognize it as conditioning. They simply feel confused. They start asking, "What changed? Did I upset them? Why were they loving yesterday but distant today?" Instead of questioning the inconsistency, they question themselves. This is where the psychological shift happens. The mind moves into self-monitoring. They analyze their tone, their timing, their reactions, their needs. They start adjusting themselves in order to restore warmth. In narcissistic relationships, this self-adjustment gradually becomes self-silencing. Now let's examine the nervous system's response. When affection is withdrawn, the brain registers it as social rejection. Social rejection activates pain centers in the brain similar to physical pain. So the person feels restless, uneasy, anxious, rejected, hyper-aware. Then suddenly the warmth returns from the narcissist. A compliment, a soft voice, a moment of intimacy, a reassuring message. The body relaxes immediately. Relief floods in. And here is the important thing. Relief after deprivation feels more intense than consistent affection. This is called intermittent reinforcement. It is the same psychological principle that makes gambling addictive. If a reward is predictable, the brain adapts. But when the reward is unpredictable, dopamine spikes become stronger in our brains. Dopamine is a chemical messenger in the brain known as a neurotransmitter. It plays a major role in how we experience pleasure, motivation, reward, and reinforcement. Simply put this way, dopamine is the brain's reward signal. When something feels good or rewarding, the brain releases dopamine. This release tells the brain, "This is important. Remember this. Do it again." That is how behaviors become reinforced. In narcissistic relationships, the pattern of high dopamine spikes creates trauma bonding. The person is not bonding to stability. They are bonding to the emotional high that follows emotional unpredictability or simply emotional abuse. When your emotional stability depends on someone else's unpredictable affection, your nervous system becomes oriented towards them. Your fear of losing their affection regulates your behavior. If they are happy, you feel happy. If they have a tantrum or become distant, your mood immediately drops. Your confidence begins to depend on their approval. If they invalidate you, you may even stop doing things that could benefit you. Notice something important. They do not need to control you aggressively. Your fear of losing their affection begins to regulate your behavior. That is why intermittent affection in narcissistic relationships does not look like control at first. It looks like longing. It looks like hope. But neurologically, it is conditioning. Another consequence of intermittent affection is that the victim slowly begins shrinking. Because they want to maintain the attachment with the narcissist, they begin to believe that consistency of warmth can be earned. So they start adjusting themselves. They silence their needs. They soften their boundaries. They reduce emotional expression. They think, if only I am calmer, if only I am less emotional, if only I don't complain. But even after shrinking yourself, you will find that the inconsistency continues. Because for the attachment to remain strong, intermittent affection must continue. The pattern itself maintains the bond. And over time, this leads to deep emotional exhaustion. In contrast, healthy love does not rely on unpredictability. It is consistent. It does not withdraw affection to create compliance. It feels steady, and steady does not create anxiety. It creates safety. So when we talk about intermittent affection, especially in narcissistic relationships, we are not just describing mood swings. We are describing a conditioning pattern that creates dependency. If you feel anxious most of the time and relieved only occasionally, that is not secure attachment. That is intermittent reinforcement. And awareness of the mechanism is the first step toward breaking its hold. Because once you see the mechanism clearly, you stop personalizing it. You stop asking, what is wrong with me? And you begin asking, why am I adapting to unpredictability? That shift is where emotional freedom begins. And the moment you recognize that, you begin to break the cycle. I hope this video brought some light into your perception of your attachment with narcissistic people. Hi, I'm Dr. Lavanya. On this channel, I share insights to help you understand narcissism and protect your emotional well-being. So subscribe and keep watching. I will see you all in my next video. Until then, take care and bye.